Meeting to order. Commissioner Stewart, if you'll lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Please stand and join us. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your grace and mercy, Lord. We ask that you just grant us wisdom tonight as we deal with the business of the county. Lord, I want to take the time to thank you for sparing us during this recent storm, Lord, for what you did for us, to put your hand of protection around us, Lord. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you'd like to speak, you've got a citizens to be heard either at the beginning or at the end. You can also speak on each individual agenda item. Please fill out a speaker card for each item with Miss Patty. And when you come up, give us your name and address so the folks at home can hear you as well. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Chairman. We'd like to add Randall Taylor to the awards and presentation portion to give us an update on Hurricane Irma.
Okay. Any other changes?
Motion to approve the agenda is modified.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Citizens to be heard. None for the first one. Move into public hearing. Item number 1.
You got the ball.
Yes, sir. This is the second of 2 required public hearings on the Wakulla County budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. If you wish to speak during the public hearing portion of this meeting, please step forward at the appropriate time. The final aggregate millage rate is 8.0351 mills, which is equal to the aggregate rollback millage rate of 8.0351 mills. Now the county administrator will read the final millage rate into the public record.
The proposed Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County final countywide millage rate is 8.0351 mills, which is equal to the countywide rollback millage rate of 8.0351 mills.
I'm opening up the floor for a motion to begin the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. At this time, the individuals that have turned in speaker cards to the clerk are allowed to speak. Any? None? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Florida statutes require the board to address the final millage rate before addressing the final budget. The board must vote on the millage rate and the budget separately. I will now entertain the following motions. Number 1, approve the Board of County Commissioners FY 2017-2018 final countywide millage rate of 8.0351 mills.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Motion number 2, approve the Board of County Commissioners FY 2017-2018 final countywide budget as presented by the Administrator on July 14, 2017, and as amended through the agenda process today.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right. That ends public hearing number 1. Hopefully it'll be that easy next year, right, David?
I hope so. Thank y'all. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for doing a good job.
While we're here, I'd just like to thank Brandy. She, this is Brandy took this on and she did a great job.
Yes, she did.
Great job with help with Greg and from the clerk's office. So.
Thank you.
And that's the reason it was so easy.
Yeah.
Well, Greg didn't do much this year.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to request approval to conduct the public hearing and approve the purchase and sale of agreement for acquisition of land on Melanie Lane for the purpose of a lift station for the Wakulla Magnolia Garden Sewer
So
project.
moved.
Second. Have a motion, second. Any citizens? Discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Summer?
The next item is a request for the board's approval to conduct the final public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending the Land Development Code pertaining to medical marijuana dispensing facilities.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion, second. Any citizens? No. Discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 4. Oh, that's been tabled. 4 and 5 have been tabled. We'll jump to number 6 pertaining to Sop Chop.
Number 6 is a request for the board's approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance which amends Section 2.210 of the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances. This ordinance will add the city of Sop Choppy as lands encompassed by the Wakulla County Industrial Development
So moved.
Authority.
Have a motion second. Any citizens? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our public hearing, and we'll go into awards and presentation. We'll start out with Mr. Jim McShane, CEO of Career Source Capital Region.
Nancy, if you wait a little while, you might catch both meetings.
All right. And tell Sop Choppy we approve the agenda item for him tonight.
Thank you, Commissioners, and this is my annual report of what happened in our last program year that ended June 30th of last year. So I'm going to give you an update. Let's see, where am I aiming this?
Turn it on.
Yeah, yes.
Right up here.
Oh, okay. I'll try.
You join the crowd.
Why don't we get a new remote?
I don't know why we don't get it.
Oh, probably am. All right, that one, okay.
With bigger
Thank you.
buttons?
We'll get used to this. There we go. So as you know, Career Source Capital Region is here to connect employers with qualified and skilled talent and Floridians with employment and career development opportunities in Leon, Gadsden, and Wakulla. My next slide just shows you who's on our board, and your two appointees are Patrick Hutto from St. Mark's Powder and Kevin Vaughn from Wakulla. The next slide shows you community partners, and one of the ones that you should be aware of is John Schuff as the Wakulla Economic Development Committee. Under the federal guidelines, we are to have 2 economic development people on our board, and so John is one of those folks, so he is on the board and active. My next step is just to give you an idea what are the top advertised occupations in our area. To no surprise, registered nurses is number 1. We have 320 openings that we can't seem to fill in the 3-county area. Computer systems analyst at 263 is another that we again don't have the staff or don't have the talent available. One of the things that I talk to the business community about is the fact that if you keep putting 5 years experience, you're not going to get anybody that graduates from FAMU, FSU, or TCC. We really need to start to change that mindset and allow some of our younger people to get trained and to get into these businesses. Management analysts, 230, business operations specialists, 203, and first-line supervisors. First-line supervisors is something that the whole nation has a problem with finding. Our 10 direct employers by ads. This is something that is updated every month on the DEO website. So as you can see, some of it has to do with accounting, Deloitte, banking with U.S. Bank, Florida State, of course, and our medical centers looking for medical technicians. Well, here's the part of the report that I want you to definitely keep. Number of business solutions we provided last year to the businesses in the 3-county area is 12,988. We have a business solutions team that goes out and calls on businesses locally. Number of career seekers we served and providing solutions, 16,500. Career seekers directly referred to open positions that were posted on our site, 28,168, and resumes reviewed, 3,005. That's one of the services we provide all people that come into our career centers if they need them. Hiring events, we did 203 businesses attending our hiring events. You may recall we used to have a job fair that we had in Leon County a long time ago. It had a lot of people showed up. We had a lot of businesses there, but there wasn't a lot of hiring. So what we changed is we now have hiring fairs that are based on the local demand, and it's by sector. So healthcare has its own, retail has its own, and we're doing these sector strategies because it's meaning that at the end they can't be there as a business unless they're hiring. So our goal is to get people hired and in a job. Number of career seekers attending these hiring events, we had over 1,000. And our financial aid, we spent $336,000 in financial aid to people that needed it. This next slide shows you our Career Center visitors. So you can see Wakulla, we had over 3,413 visits last year. In Leon, 24,000, and Gadsden, 13,000. So, and as you may or may not know, we are going to be moving out of where we are currently with TCC, and we're moving back to the location down the street here that we had before. It is in the process of being totally remodeled. It is remodeled in a mirror image, basically, of what we just did in Leon County with the whole change in our operations and how we deal with folks coming in. And so it's going to be something that we will invite you to a open house and a setting, ribbon cutting, and you'll see what we've done differently. We now are really sector strategy oriented. That's something that's happening across the country, and part of it is because I need to develop within our system and the people that work for us the business information and intelligence to be able to start to predict and to be able to help really look for people that are going to fill the needs of our business community. One thing that we're doing a little differently these days is we actually go out and look on the websites, both Indeed and Employ Florida and others, to look for the talent that are businesses that post jobs with us so we can provide them with some qualified individuals. Operations, the top 5 schools that we gave financial aid to are right here. National Training is a truck driving school. Roadmaster is another truck driving school, and now Tallahassee Community College has now got truck driving, so we'll be giving them more business. Lively Tech and Florida A&M are the others. Our operations, financial aid to individuals based on the career seekers enrolled, truck driving, registered nurses, practical nursing, health informatics, and welding are programs that we have helped people with tuition payments. Investing in business, and I think this, I'm not sure this will work on that. No, it went to somebody.
I don't think we have wireless.
Yeah. Let's see. I wonder if we put the wrong one on there. All right, well, we actually have the business community working with us, as you see on here, Joyce Chastain, and it is on our website. You can review that YouTube at your leisure, but it is a great YouTube talking about what we do and how we do it in our area. Oh, here we go. And then connecting business, so there it is. There we go, Taco Bell. So as you may or may not know, a new store opening here in town, the Taco Bell in Crawfordville. We recruited employees for that new location. Of the 51 career seekers who attended, over 50% were offered positions. What we like to do is have the businesses understand that we can recruit 50, 100 people if that's what they need, and we've done this with numerous, mostly restaurants. And they can hire on the spot. We had, when Hardee's came into town, they had never used us before. We did one of these events for them, and on the spot they hired 45 people. That's what we like to see. Regional partnerships. So we are also working with the folks across the state line. Under the new Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, our goal is to get a regional plan in place by 2019. That means that we have to work with other workforce areas. And given our labor market, there are a lot of people who come from Thomasville down to Leon County and other parts of our area for jobs and vice versa. And so our goal is to really put together a regional plan that's going to make sense in order to help those folks find jobs. So we are partnering with CareerSource North Florida, which is Jefferson County, Taylor County, folks to our east, and WorkSource Southwest Georgia and WorkSource South Georgia, which are the two that are on the border between the two CareerSource centers. What we're also doing is applying for a grant from CareerSource Florida to hire somebody to be able to help put together that plan and work with the 4 workforce boards in order to do a good job and have something for the Department of Labor as required in the law. Our Florida Department of Corrections partnership continues to grow, and I think I'm on one of the state committees at this point in time. They've recruited me for that. We also help with recruitment events. As you know, Wakulla Corrections needs folks and is working. We work hard with them to try and find the folks they need. Giving Hope, I just have that as something you can read, but this is a person who, Krishona, who went through our Dynamic Futures. This is our training program. It's a boot camp for 2 weeks that we've actually spread out over 10 weeks. We're working with Leon County right now and doing an apprenticeship program with the county that we hope to start in January. Then we're also working on their summer jobs program where starting next year we will be in charge of their summer jobs program. And what that does is basically help us go ahead and put some of our folks into job in what we call work experience during the summer so that they're able to get an idea of what's required by a job. This one too is on YouTube, so if you go to that at your convenience, you can hear. This is somebody that brought flowers to our Gadsden County Center after we found him a job. He had been jobless for quite a while. So exciting changes is what we're doing right now. Implemented our industry sector strategies to better assist our businesses. We're expanding and improving our training programs and community partnerships to better assist our career seekers and employers. We've launched an adult work experience opportunities, something that more and more it's similar to a learn and earn type of situation. Relocating and improving our career centers. We're doing the one here in Wakulla now. It's supposed to be done in October, around the 1st of October, which is just around the corner. But whenever it is finished and we're able to get an open house, we'll invite you all. And then on November 1st, for the first time, our board is doing a Talent Innovation Summit, which you'll be sent information on. We're bringing Ed Gordon. Dr. Ed Gordon is a nationally recognized expert on workforce. He's going to talk about what's happening in the workforce with changes, with skill gaps, do some of the things that we need to and bring to us some of the ideas that we need in our region in order to address this issue. And then we're going to have some breakout groups after that, and it'll be from 8:30 in the morning till 1:30, and that'll be over at the Turnbull Center. So it'll include breakfast and lunch, and our charge is $35, and we're looking for sponsors right now. I've got 4 sponsors lined up at $2,500 each, so we're working hard at trying to make sure that we don't even have to use any of our federal dollars in order to put this on. We're hoping this becomes an annual event, and we'll see how this one goes and how it morphs from there. And with that, are there any questions by you all? I know it went fast, but I know you all have.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
I'm the board's representative.
Yes, he's the guy.
Well, I'm not the guy, but I'm your representative with Jim. On your occupations in demand, you're training registered nurses, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you training computer systems analysts?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're training all those people.
Yep.
Are you working with TCC on any of that?
Oh, all the time. TCC is our biggest one.
How about Wakulla High?
They are involved in our pathways. You're going to get something. We'll send something to you all. We're on WTXL today. We've announced that we have a pathways website that's going to help employers. It's going to help career seekers. It's going to help parents of kids. It's going to help the kids to take a look at what does it take to get to be a CNA, an LPN, an RN. Where do you get that kind of training? What does it cost? How long does it take to get it? We're putting all that information on this site, and then we're going by sector. So we also have IT information on there for the different IT jobs in the area, and this site is a site that we're building, and Kim Moore is our partner. She is the chair of that committee, and we do have Wakulla school system involved in that.
On these 5 occupations,
Mm-hmm.
they're in demand. Why are we not able to meet that demand?
Variety of reasons. The first one I gave you is that most of the people that are coming out of school with a degree related to that,
job, they're not able to, or they typically don't apply because they see that the employer has put on their 5 years or more experience.
Okay, so in addition to the degree, the employer wants 5 years of work experience along with it.
Exactly. The other is some of the programs which we've already had, some of our focus groups. IT is a good example where they come out with two different computer languages out of FSU that they're trained in. Those languages aren't used anymore today. So we are working with FSU to make some changes in that end. That's what the board does, is act as an intermediary between the education providers and the training providers. So when we hear that from the business community, we bring it back to the education provider and ask them to start to make adjustments.
So you teach these courses, but the employers don't hire the people.
Right.
Wow.
Yep. Well, we don't teach them, but yes, the different
Yeah.
colleges.
So
and
even though they get a degree or
right,
certification, they can't be hired.
it's not relevant to what the business community needs.
So they can't go into these occupations on an entry level and get to five years or so. They could, I guess.
They could.
They could.
It's just many businesses don't really allow that entry level.
That's really sad.
It is.
On your nursing,
Yes.
there is a graduate nurse, a registered nurse, and a practical nurse.
Right.
Okay. So you're teaching the registered and the practical.
We do all of them if they're in their last year generally, because we have a $10,000 limit to what we can give somebody in a lifetime. So we usually wait till they're in their junior or senior year.
So you are helping to
Yep.
move that registered up to a graduate nurse.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yep. One of the issues is the fact that, and we talked about this today, I did with Kim Moore, is number one, they need a master's degree nurse to teach the nurses and get their degree. And there's a limited number of master's degree nurses, and the master's degree nurse can earn a lot more money working for the hospital than they can for the university. There's like $30,000 to $40,000 difference in income. Second thing is clinicals, and that's probably the biggest obstacle to all of the nursing training. Every one of the nursing programs would love to double or triple their nursing programs, but there are not enough clinical slots available in order to train the nurses. And it's a requirement. They have to have that training. If you've been to Gasvini Center that TCC runs, they have dummies in there. They can run them through a certain amount of the clinicals without having a real person there, but in the end, they still need to have go through a real training.
Volunteer for that.
What is your solution on these 5 occupations that you train for and nobody will hire them?
Well, I'm not saying nobody hires them.
I understand.
Okay, what I'm saying is that,
Difficulty being hired.
well, and we don't produce enough of them.
Sir?
We're not producing enough of them. We're producing like 90 a year, and they need 350 a year.
But your 90 are not necessarily being hired because they don't
Well, the
have...
90 are probably being hired if they're around here and if they go
Okay.
for those jobs, and we help them with that.
Okay. all
Yep.
right.
Good
One
question.
thing on our last meeting that bothered me a little bit, you mentioned that you were training some of these folks, and yet when they applied for the job, they had a conviction, we will call it, a felony or a misdemeanor or whatever, and that eliminated them from being able to get the job.
In some cases it does, in some cases it doesn't.
Would it not be better to ask those folks that, have you got any kind of a record before we run them through the training and they can't?
We're federally funded, and we have certain limitations with our federal dollars, and we can't do certain things.
So you can't
And I
ask
can't do background checks on people.
Wow.
And part of that is because then I would have to do it on 48,000 people a year, which is how many people come through our centers over a year, and I would not have the money for that.
I know there must be some disappointed people when they go through your system and they go out and apply for a job and they say, well, we can't hire you. He
Yep.
said, well, I've already been through the system and whatever.
We work with the BBARC, which is the Big Bend reentry program, and our goal is to try and service some of those folks, but the limitation is the employers. Will the employers allow them or not? So some do, and some are helpful. You can get jobs in landscaping usually. You can get jobs as a chef. In fact, that's the next thing we're going for, is to get some training up for chefs, because right now nationwide, 25,000 short. That'll be a great thing, and usually if you have a record, it isn't something that'll stop you from being
You
a
have a
chef.
pharmacy apprentice program?
Yeah, it's run through, actually we use FAMU for our pharmacy techs.
Further questions? Good.
Nope.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Good
Appreciate it
presentation.
too.
Next, we'll hear from Miss Sabrina Williams with the Refuge House. Come on down.
Our partners.
Good afternoon. I'm Sabrina with the Refuge House, and a lot of you know that I have taken over Asbel position since she's been retired in September. So for the last 6 months, I have been hitting the board running, trying to educate as much as possible. So just to kind of give you guys a kind of update of where we stand at for Wakulla, there has been, for me, giving counseling sessions. I have given 8 to 12 counseling sessions for 8 victims in Wakulla County. Also, 15 have requested advocacy through the courthouse system where they apply for injunctions. And for the hotline that's within Leon County, 40 calls have came in from Wakulla asking about resources and different relocation, where they can get funding from and different things like that. Also, I do receive the police reports from Wakulla County, and there have been over 33 police reports that is concerning domestic violence. So right now, the Refuge House have just finished training with FCDAV, which is Florida Coalition of Domestic Violence, of INVEST. And INVEST is pretty much something that they use in Leon County, and they use in 11 counties throughout the state of Florida. And this is right here is going to help us reduce in preventing homicides in Wakulla County. So we're in the process of launching that up in the next couple of weeks, and I will be the INVEST person for Wakulla County. And this right here will be a simple of the officer that answers that call. They're going to ask a series of questions. Once they ask those series of questions, then they will be forwarded over to me, and I will go through to see if they're high risk of lethality. That means of assessments of being murdered or actually being stalked a little bit more, or whatever the case. So we're getting ready to launch that off with Wakulla County Sheriff Department. Also, I have been in the jail since July with the women that are victims and survivors of domestic violence. So that's been going pretty good, and most of my groups every Monday are 11 to 15 survivors that's in their group, and they also get sexual violence, because some of them do experience sexual violence once they have been abused with the domestic violence piece of it. Also, on last week in our task force, we did a SANE training for some of the community partners, and that's why they can understand that Refuge House do have a SANE unit that's across the street from TMH, and this is pretty much where sexual assaults would be. If they get sexual assaulted and they feel like, hey, I can't call the sheriff department, or if I call the sheriff department or somebody I trust, that hey, I need to go get examined, so that way that the investigator can go ahead and build their case. So we did work with some of the investigators that's with Wakulla County that actually work with the victims, and also some of the community partners that actually have home visiting programs like Healthy Start and Healthy Family. So they was there also, and also with Brian Miller, who's the state attorney general for Wakulla. Also, I've been in the high schools doing with the 9th grader English class on the book Speak. Speak is pretty much a book where a young lady was raped over the summer, and so therefore I'm able to go into the school and talk with the students about the different boundaries and recognizing those signs, or having a safe person that they can have a conversation with in case this thing right here happens to them. And I'm also at Second Chance every Thursday and Friday, 25 students per periods, which is 50 students total, and I'm doing cyberbullying and bullying, because that is a big topic right now in Wakulla County, and I am explaining to them about the Florida statutes, how they can get charged depending on how their activity is when it comes to these things. So for me, my whole main goal is making sure that I educate and hit the ground running, because oftentimes they see things and feel like they're normal because of what they see in their home. And so for me, I try to break the cycles like, hey, that's not unnormal, or you can get a charge for this. And the recent one that we have been dealing with, if you take a video of someone that's being in a fight or anything that's negative, that you are considered a bystander, and there is something that can be set in law for you that you can get a charge for that. So I just been working with our teams very closely, just trying to educate them like, hey, if you see something, do something. Just don't walk away. You treat people the way you want to be treated. So if you was in this situation, you would want somebody to pretty much help you. And right now I'm also in the process. I'm getting ready to target St. Mark's, because oftentimes they are left out with the Wakulla charter coastal school down there. So I am going to be going in there doing a cyberbullying and bullying for that piece K through 8th grade within the next couple weeks. And so for me, I did bring some flyers. We all know that Domestic Violence Awareness Month is coming up. And so I decided to make this a little bit different. Instead of having a survivor and a victim talk about their story, I decided to educate from as young to adults, because if you understand the difference between healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships, then you'll know how to build a healthy relationship. So I do have outside partners like Appalachian Center, Healthy Families. Also, I'm going to have TMH pet therapy, where they actually read a book to the younger kids in order for them to understand the importance of having a healthy relationships, and if they have these boundaries, how to address these boundaries. So anybody have any questions? I know I talk kind of fast.
Gary?
A lot of good information. You got your hands full, sounds like.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, so I have some flyers. And thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. If we can help you, let us know.
Okay, thanks.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Randall Taylor, the Wakulla Emergency Management Director. Hope you got a little bit of rest these last few days.
A little bit. I was asked to come give an update. During the hurricane, we had 95 road obstructions. 50 of those had power lines in them, so we had to wait a little bit for the power lines to be cleared before the trees could be cleared. We have a great system here at Wakulla County. Our law enforcement officers and our firefighters carry chainsaws in their trucks. So within about 3 hours, we had almost 50 road obstructions cleared that could be cleared so the roads could be made safe.
I told them up in Tallahassee, told them that Randall about carrying chainsaws, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and it works.
Yeah.
Road and Bridge, our Public Works, is in our EOC with us, and they're able to communicate what our law enforcement officers and our firefighters can't handle, and they go take the big stuff, the others take the small stuff, and it works very, very, very well. We had 9 residents damaged that's been reported at this time, 7 of them with major damage and 2 of them listed as affected. That gives us a total of $230,000 in residential damage. That's not counting the 2 vehicles. We've been approved for Category A and Category B. It's a little doubtful on the rest that will meet the threshold.
So is that individual assistance that they'll qualify for?
Debris removal.
Not yet. It's debris removal and
With
our prep work.
those, what you said, 8 homes, will they qualify for IA?
It depends on how many of them's insured,
Okay.
because they won't be covered unless, well, they don't count towards our threshold if they're insured.
Gotcha.
We had a total of 7,353 estimated power outages, and that's meters. We can't get residential numbers because they just count the meters. We had 7,353. All that power has been restored at this time.
Good job on
Randall.
keeping the storm tone down, too.
Yeah, Randall did a good job of showing the storm another door.
Getting it and calming
but-
it down and from a Category 4 to down to a
That's
top.
right.
Good job.
That's right. He did a good job along with the sheriff's department and our ESG, Mike King, his crew, Neil Watts, and then naturally it took a lot of coordination with our office, with Jessica as you pumped out information, and Chris Savory. They worked flawlessly together, which was big. We got more information out this storm than we've ever gotten in the past. And Nanette, she kept everything
That
settled
camera.
down over at Public Works, and Brandy, she was over at Public Works as well, and she chipped in, and she helped all over the place, so it was...
Heather, I think, gave it one of her well-known cold stares. I think that may have calmed down a little.
Heather went the other way. She turned tail and ran, so...
Cold stare, though, I think.
One word will sum it up, and that was team. Everyone worked together, and it was great teamwork.
We did a lot better in Hermine, too, by the way, than they did up north of us, too.
Yeah.
Just because we're a small county,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
We can move quicker on our feet.
And a lot of people pitch in instead of just waiting
That's
for
right.
it to happen.
Yeah, I took my tractor out and cleared Lonnie Raker Road, just neighbors helping neighbors, you know. You don't sit down and wait for somebody to show up.
That's right.
Smith Creek, I don't think anybody called for help out there, did they? I mean, people were out of, didn't have well water for a week or two. Hey, you all right? Oh, we're all right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I got a call today about a low-hanging wire from Duke. I called Duke. They said Randall already called us, so he was ahead of me on it.
Thank you, Randall. You did a good job. It's a heck of a break-in, so...
Yeah.
Thank you. Great team.
Yep.
It was great teamwork.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good job, Randy.
All right, that ends our awards and presentation.
Move consent approval.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay. General, no consent pulled, no general business, no planning and zoning, commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Hess.
Yes, I think I have a presentation from the Sheriff's Department here.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. I'm Deputy Jeffrey Yarbrough. I've had the pleasure of meeting a few of you, but for the rest of you, it's nice meeting you. I'm here on behalf of the Sheriff's Office at the request of Commissioner Hess to just provide some information regarding texting and driving, and we'll kind of talk about what that actually is here in a few minutes. The slideshow is mostly just some facts and stats, and I'll go into a little more nuts and bolts at the end of this. So initially I was tasked with coming up with a presentation with some information about texting and driving, but when you dive into that, what you actually find is that texting and driving is only a small portion of what's known as distracting driving, which is kind of the overall buzz term that's being thrown out there now. So it's not just texting. And I do apologize, the stats that I have here are pretty much nationwide stats. I don't know of any comprehensive study that's been done just for Florida or specifically with Wakulla County, so I had to pull with what I could find.
Right.
The new clicker, Jessica.
There you go.
So as of 2013, 219 million U.S. citizens had cellular phones. Approximately 92% of all U.S. adults have some sort of cellular device. And when we factor in teenagers, I'm assuming that percentage number is going to go way up above just 92%, because I don't know of any teenagers. I've been in elementary school kids, and almost all fifth graders now have cell phones, so I'm sure that number is quite great. Over the last 15 years, the number of individuals using cellular devices while driving has increased dramatically, just because as they become more pervasive in society, people use them more. So you're more apt to pull it out while you're driving as opposed to 15, 20 years ago when they weren't really all that common. Can I go back? Maybe? All right. Distracted driving is the act of driving while engaged in other activities. So not just texting, looking at your phone, fiddling with the radio, and even doing something as seemingly benign as holding an engaging conversation can actually fall into the category of distracted driving. Anything that you're doing that is pulling your attention away from what you ought to be doing and focusing on the road is considered distracted driving. And obviously texting is becoming a huge issue now, and specifically when I hear most about it is with teenagers and young drivers. And obviously cellular phones and devices are a generational thing, and younger generation is much more comfortable and apt to use those sorts of things.
Excuse me, Jessica's very guilty of this.
Yeah,
So
Jessica. I've heard about her, so.
I called you.
And yelling at kids in the back seats. That counts too.
And when we look at the act of texting or distracted driving, it's going to be amplified in younger drivers, teenage drivers, just for the mere fact of they're not as experienced in the act of driving. So where someone who's been driving for 20 years doesn't have to devote as much thought process to the act of driving, when you're new to it, you should be much more engaged in what you're doing, and then you throw in having friends in the cars, trying to text on the phone. The effect of that on your driving skills is going to be amplified in a negative way. So current estimates show that distracted driving is responsible for approximately 1.6 million accidents every year, and that factors into about 25% of all traffic crashes nationally will involve some sort of distraction as a cause. In 2015, which is the most recent numbers, almost 4,000 people nationally were injured as a result of traffic accidents involving distracted driving, and approximately 3,500 traffic fatalities inside of those injuries. All right. Using, texting, or even talking on a cellular phone or device, and this includes Bluetooth devices, so it's not just, you know, holding it up to your ear. Even when you have that little thing in your ear and you don't necessarily think about it, when you're engaged in that conversation, you're talking to somebody, you're not thinking about what you're doing. That's distracting you from driving. So while you're doing that, your eyes are often taken off the road. So which is ultimately going to be the biggest issue with all of this is your attention and your eyes. You're not focused on where you're going. It's going to reduce your ability to make decisions because you're not seeing what's in front of you, and it's also going to increase the time it takes you to make those decisions because you haven't been made aware of the problems that are in front of you. At 55 miles an hour, your vehicle will travel roughly the length of a football field in 5 seconds. So when you're using a device, actually, did I skip one? The average cellular phone user, while using their phone, looks at it for approximately 23 seconds per use. So when you think about that statistic above, where if you're at 55, you're traveling a football field every 5 seconds. If you're looking at your phone for 15, 20 seconds at a clip, you're traveling a huge distance while not looking at the road. So that kid on the bike that just pulled out, that driver that just made a turn in front of you, you didn't even know that happened because you were paying attention to your phone and not what was in front of you. Cellular devices while driving increases your chance of being involved in a traffic accident by 23%. And studies have shown that using a cellular device while driving is almost equivalent to driving while legally drunk. So when you think about like alcohol use and driving, what does alcohol do to your system? It's a depressant. It slows you down and inhibits your ability to make quick decisions, to understand what's going on around you, and it inhibits your ability to multitask. The things that law enforcement officers look to determine if someone is drunk is we give them tests to determine their ability to follow instructions and multitask. Essentially, distracted driving and testing and driving is imposing that on yourself right away just by the things you're doing. You're adding another thing for you to think about. You're taking your eyes off the road, and you're certainly, you know, decreasing your ability to make good decisions, see what's in front of you, and react to those decisions or those dangers. That's all I have. Open for questions.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I saw this going around. Basically, it's been a proposal in the state level for the last few years, and it hasn't passed. And I asked the sheriff about it, and he said, you know, this is, you know, texting and driving is like driving drunk. And so I said, you know, we ought to bring this forward and encourage our state legislator to make this a primary offense instead of a secondary.
I'll second your motion. I'm assuming that's what you made a motion.
Motion and second.
Yeah, no problem.
Any citizens on
I
this?
suspect the accident we had the other morning on the way to the high school is probably
related to that.
I heard it did.
I don't know the specifics of that accident.
Just out of nowhere to rear end a car at that force on the middle of the highway, somebody wasn't looking at the road.
I would be willing to guess the statistics on the number of accidents that involve this are actually probably higher. Those are probably only what can be proven. But if you're in a single vehicle accident, there's no necessary way to, unless you're just going to offer it up that I was texting, those numbers are probably actually higher than what the study showed.
I saw it one in front of the Ace. The girl, bam, rear-ended, right back on the phone, I guess, to tell somebody they just got in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Call AAA.
I mean, right, just absolutely no reason for it other than not looking at the road.
And it's so easy to do. You get so you're so used to using your phone, and all of a sudden you're looking at it too long.
Yeah.
I tell my daughter, put it in the glove box or something.
Yeah, I don't use my phone when I'm driving, but today's automobiles, my automobile, I'm sort of a distracted driver because I'm looking off everywhere. I see everything on both sides of the road, but I set a distance, and the car in front of me increases, I increase, he decreases, I decrease, he stops, I stop. So that's in 218, 219. You've got lane departure coming where that you move over the white line, it will pull you back. So we're just about to the point where something else will take care of us if we don't watch for ourselves, which hopefully that's a good thing.
When Jerry was a young man, they had just come out with that portable telegraph thing. He had that wire following him around everywhere.
Well, actually, they do it by the line. If the line has
They don't make you
Horse
got
and
it.
buggy texting?
Yeah,
if
telegraph.
if the line is clear enough, and as they say, they should be an app for a driver that's in the wheel that will not allow that phone to do that. I'm sure there probably is an app somewhere that.
Yeah, I know what they're encouraging now, at least with younger drivers, and what we do with the teen driver challenge that we teach is just put them away. Put them somewhere where you can't get to them, where you won't be tempted to look at them, because even if it's something as I'm going to check my phone at a red light, I mean, you could end up causing some sort of accident by not paying attention to the light, not moving when it, yeah, exactly.
It's a snot out of me too.
Can you
Yes.
I just can't.
can you give somebody a ticket at a fast food for texting while they're taking your order?
I wish I could.
I had that happen. This lady just texting taking my order.
We were,
Oh, the employee was? The employee was?
Yeah, the employee was one of the new companies in town. She was just taking my order and texting. I wasn't there. She was just,
Multitasking.
Taking that up with Career Source.
we were joking with Jessica, but she probably was the only honest one in the room today when we were talking about this, and because most of us do text and have once or twice in our life done that, and it's bad. And your statistics bear out that we could take care of 25% of traffic accidents by doing away with texting. I mean, that's what I read.
Well, and one statistic that I didn't put in there that, I haven't checked this recently, but I'd heard years ago that most traffic crashes, when people, by the time everybody's applied their brakes, when they're getting in a traffic crash, they actually only occur at the cars are only going about 25 miles an hour. So when you think about the damage of most traffic crashes, and you look at that they were probably doing less than 30 miles an hour, and then factor in some of these crashes, if you're not paying attention, you could plow into something doing 55, 60 miles an hour. You're looking at exponentially the amount of damage they could be caused, and that's where you start getting into serious bodily injuries, fatalities, which is certainly nothing that anybody wants to see.
And my point is that while she told us, the rest of us didn't fess up. The fact is we knowingly do it, nothing happened, so we really didn't do it. That's behind us. And, so, I like to think that I hope this will happen. I appreciate you bringing it up, Chuck. I think it's a good idea, and I hope the legislatures will take some action to make it illegal and make it a first line offense, whatever it's called.
Fun for you, Jessica, okay? Pay for your ticket.
We're just picking on you, Jessica.
She's not the only one, I'm sure. My daughter's 15, and she's going to be driving a manual shift. Just one less thing that she's got to put that aside so she can handle that gear shift.
Thank you. You did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Let's see, that ends our commissioner agenda items. County attorney,
Nothing tonight.
county administrator.
Yes, just have one item I'd like you guys to vote on real quick is our November 20th. We right now have the Restore Act workshop scheduled for 2 o'clock. That should have been 3 o'clock. Would you guys mind changing that to 3 o'clock?
Motion to change it to 3 o'clock.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any citizens want to speak on that? Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, and that's it. Like I say, we all did. I just can't tell you enough how proud I am of our staff and our county officials and sheriff's department and everybody did a really good job.
Very good. Patty, any citizens be heard? All right, discussion items.
Randy?
Nope.
No? Ian?
I was, but I got talked out of it.
Oh, hell.
We've got a public meeting in Panacea tomorrow at the Welcome Center. Is it 6 p.m.? and that's going to be on the BP Restore Act Pot 1 funds.
And they're also going to be in St. Mark's and...
We've also got one at Shell Point VFD on the 21st.
Okay.
And we've got one in St. Mark's at 6 o'clock on the 25th, which is a Monday.
Very good. Very good. And next week was the 28th. We've got a legislative delegation with Senator Mumford and Representative Beshears. I'm planning on being at the Florida Association Conference, so if one of you guys will present to the legislature.
Vice Chair.
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
I'll be gone as well, so will Sheree.
I won't be there either.
Well, what the,
I'm gonna be at FAC. I'm gonna be at the conference with
We
him.
got Gulf Consortium.
Yeah, we got a big
PAC,
conference, so
Small County Coalition.
He'll text you from
I'll text you.
what you, tell me what you want presented, and I mean, if you come up with some more, and that goes for anybody on the board, if you
Yeah.
want us to bring up something.
Right. And I'm sure Sheree will put
Sheree will
together
put
our
your stuff together.
legislative priorities, and
Yeah.
we did real good last year. Hopefully we'll,
I'll be glad to do that.
okay. That's all I have.
Randy, can I say a few words? Thank you.
About age, not about my ages.
I need to ask Randy if I can. I'm seeing as many kayaks on the water as I am boats. I looked out the other day and there were 6 kayaks on Dickerson Bay. 6. And I'm seeing kayaks go down at the end of bottoms all the time. Automobiles behind, pulling behind. So we have a lot of people coming into the county just enjoying kayaks.
I
So
saw a lot of people walking in Dickerson Bay the
Yeah.
other day, too.
yeah.
Gary, I'd always
And the
thought,
water was gone.
what's that road that the lift station 8's on that goes to the bay? Remember we talked about doing something kayaks there at some point?
Walker Street.
The one, just dead right
Yeah,
right
dead
in
end.
Dickerson Bay.
Yeah.
It's not, there's 60-foot right away, nothing's ever done with it. It'd
Is
be a
that
great spot.
Skipper Bay Road?
No.
Behind the grocery.
Right across from your house.
in
Across the
Tennessee.
bay
It's on
from
next
your
to the
house.
Maritime Museum.
Oh,
It's the old
yeah.
Hutto
Your
house
Willie
there.
Park.
Yeah.
To the left.
You know where the lift station 8 is? You know the Eddie's used tire store used to be in Panacea?
Well, if you have the,
Yeah.
you have the,
It's
Woolly
before the
Park,
IGA.
right beside the, Woolly Park is the
North of
Maritime
Woolly
Museum.
Park.
you?
And then you got
Just
Walker
north of
Street.
there, there's a street. I
That's
mean,
Walker Street.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
Walker
that's-
Street.
The one,
That's
Actually-
connected to the Maritime Museum.
is it?
Partial,
Access.
that
Yeah.
partial.
When you turn to the IGA there.
And the, one of the projects of the park board's been talking about is making that a kayak launch.
Well, that's exactly what I was just saying. We own the property around that lift station too, by the way. It could be used for parking because we bought it, the Hutto house. And I don't know about that old house, that white house that was behind it. I don't know if it was a church or whatever, but anyway. We own property there.
Yeah,
There's-
we should be turning that into.
It might not smell very good.
There's
but
very little fish in Dickerson Bay at that point.
You're just saying that because you...
No, I'm not just saying
Okay.
it. There is very few fish there. The ideal place would be Skipper Bay, which puts you behind Piney Island, which puts you on top of the oyster bars. If we could get out to Skipper Bay somewhere, we could really load that place up with kayaks because it's so protected
Yeah.
and whatever. Whether you're a Florida fan or a
Tennessee.
Florida State fan or whatever, the quarterback for Florida did Wakulla proud over the weekend. I have never seen a longer pass or a better pass or a better receiver. That was unbelievable. Last second, come from behind, 62 yards. 62 yards he threw that ball.
Really?
That's what you like to watch,
I don't keep up with college ball.
unless you're Tennessee.
That's right.
Was good.
Nothing.
Motion still adjourn?
All right, stand
Is that time
adjourned.
check?
Thank you all for coming out tonight.
Got it within 2 minutes.
Good.
5:30.
Well, we didn't have awards and presentation. Jessica, I was going to ask what happens if, Jessica,
What,
Yes.
that thing's Monday?
I was going to ask what happens if you're drinking in Texas.